What's going on, everyone? I'm Drake. Welcome to the podcast Between the Sets. Now, on this podcast, we can talk about a wide range of things, all the way from why people insist on curling in the squat rack for 3 hours, up to principles of hypertrophy, progressive overload. We could talk about the rap game, video games, you name it, because this is where we talk about the things that come up between the sets. But today we're going to talk about fitness, particularly because we have a master trainer on the episode. So without further ado, the way I know her, Tessie Donzo, go ahead and give an introduction about yourself.
Awesome. So my actual name is Tess. I go by Tessie usually professionally. But I've been a trainer now for about 4 years. And prior to that, I've been working out myself for 8 years now, which I just did that math and I couldn't believe it. Yeah, so it's been pretty much my night and day routine.
Okay.
Eat, sleep, breathe, everything fitness. And so I'm really excited to talk all about that nerdy stuff today.
Okay, very cool, very cool. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for agreeing to do it and all that kind of stuff. I love talking about this stuff, and just from hearing you, even in that short introduction, I can tell you're passionate about it too. So once again, I appreciate it. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Super excited to be here. Thanks.
So I have a few questions about it. This is more of maybe you could think of an unofficial introduction about yourself. It says here that you're a wizard.
I like to think of myself a wizard.
Okay, what kind of wizard are we talking about here?
So I think
like a Harry Potter wizard, or
yeah. So I put that in my bio, and I kind of always have like referred to myself as the fitness wizard, and my clients have too. Only because really I've always been really kind of into the weird extraterrestrial cosmic stuff, and so I guess I'm just. Yeah, totally. So I kind of jokingly refer to myself as a wizard, but I'm totally okay sticking. Yes,
cool.
I'm a wizard.
That's totally fine. And the next one too that I like a lot is the professional optimist.
Yes.
I feel like that's a big thing, especially in the current climate right now,
No, absolutely. I think it's kind of a lifestyle, I guess you could say, a mindset that I adopted many years ago, very intentionally. Yeah. And it's something that I work at on a daily basis. It's really a practice. I like to think of it as a practice of optimism, not just kind of an inherent way of being, but it's a practice.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense, as far as the practice thing. And that's a pretty sick job if you think about it, just being a professional optimist, Can you imagine like if that was just a thing, people just, I'm sure they're there, but they're maybe not called that officially. You know what I'm saying? People come to you with, some, unfortunate situations, and you're just like, well, hey, I mean, if you look at it like this, X, Y, Z, and they're like, I hate you, but you have a good point, it's sometimes that's what it's about. I resonate a lot with that, just because, for me, I've always seen it like, people half glass full, half empty. I've always had the mentality, well, I just have a glass. As long as I have a glass, I'm chilling. You know what I'm saying? So it's just really big, especially coming from my career in law enforcement and military. I'm in pretty negative environments, So it's you can if you let yourself be susceptible to that stuff, you can really become victim of it. You know what I mean? Because of the surrounding itself. So very important, and I know it plays a big role in the fitness game. Having that mindset too.
Oh, absolutely. I feel a coach that's kind of like you, like I'm an inherent professional optimist because as a coach, my job is to, help people understand through a really tough journey that is fitness or fat loss or whatever it may be. Yeah. Kind of staying in the glass half full. I like what you said though about just having a glass, like we all really have what we need and we can kind of choose to look at it however we do.
Freaking blows my mind. Like I could go down the rabbit hole of that because like I'm sure, I don't know, for me at least, I've caught myself where you look down things where you'll see people that have maybe disabilities and stuff like that, and then I'm like, oh, I have a full able body, I'm chilling, you know what I mean? Very motivating, when you see that stuff, when people are still in the gym crushing it after those kinds of things. I'd like to hope that I would be in a similar situation if I ever got hurt or injured in that sense. or just being born in the United States or whatever, or, you know, because I have family that lives in Mexico, and with the drug cartel stuff, and that's some crazy stuff, you know, and we're just worlds apart from all that, you know, and I feel like there's a lot of people that take that for granted, you know. So I could spend a lot of time on that, so we'll keep it going. Leg day enthusiast. So you're about the leg day. Don't skip leg day.
Don't skip leg day. No, yeah, I love training all muscle groups so much, but leg day enthusiast in particular, because, well, for the first couple years of training, I was literally one of those girls that was just like, I just want to do legs. I don't want to have upper body muscles. So
Yeah,
I just have extra time in the leg day department. And it's still to me, it's like a total art and a science of like how to train the legs and the glutes and the hamstrings and all of these different things
as it all comes together. Yeah,
so I love training legs.
Yeah, that's cool. That is good. It's a good one. You know, for me, it was I fell into the whole you know, more of the upper body stuff, because like when I first got into it, man, I got into it so blind, which I feel like a lot of younger dudes do, especially you know, because especially testosterone, all that stuff, you know, everyone's like, I want to bench, I want to do all this and curls and stuff, and you're kind of like, I had a really bad coach when I had it in high school, because I had a body composition class, and he kind of just chilled and let us do whatever we wanted to do, and that led everyone just benching like and maxing every day, which was just, you know, terrible, you know, for so many different reasons. But as I've gone into and I've found people, you know, on the internet, other influencers, people like you and stuff, it's just, there's so much information now, and you can really figure out how to properly, you know, program and go through a lot of this stuff and fall in love with things that you maybe have not have loved before. So again, like with leg day and stuff, it's way better for me now than it used to be, and just more of a challenge and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun, you know. So kind of weird.
That's totally true.
Okay, fair enough. And I feel like that's a good thing. That's okay. We like the weird. That's all good. Yeah. Kind of not weird. I don't know if it was not weird, it wouldn't be the same, you know. But the next one though, super important. Love all the way.
Yeah,
it's important again, and it kind of ties in with that optimism, you know, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I love, that's one of my favorite quotes or sayings. It's by Ram Dass, and he says, love all the way and love everybody and tell the truth. And to me, that's pretty much like my whole life philosophy encapsulated into one thing. And when I started operating from a place, especially in hard times that I've had, of just kind of focusing on love and loving myself and loving other people around me. And I feel like that's really like a foundation for healing and growth. And it's a really simple word, but it means a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's something that, and I'm sure we may hit on it on one of the other questions and stuff. It's something that I feel like the fitness community as a whole could use more of, you know.
Great.
Most likely. So
yeah, that right there kind of was fun. I just wanted to do that especially because the wizard thing, that one really stood out to me. But we'll get into some of the other questions that I kind of you know, gave you a heads up on and all that stuff. So you had kind of mentioned it, but when you first started training and stuff, when you very first started, was it the same type of training? I don't even know how you would really classify. Do you classify yourself more as just a coach, or are you a bodybuilder, or, you know what I mean? How does that all fit into when you started and what you are now and stuff?
Yeah, totally. So right now I definitely kind of, I guess, identify in my professional field as a health coach, a nutrition coach, a personal trainer. I've done a lot of in-person training and working on people's mechanics and things like that.
Okay.
And I'm also really passionate about nutrition and how that plays. I really am passionate about the psychology of nutrition, as well as, you know, the physiology and the biology of it.
That's a whole other game right there.
Yes, it is. But I love being able to help people who maybe have struggled with, their body image or just their relationship with fitness. I really love kind of enlightening them on, hey, it doesn't have to be just this one way. Let's integrate this into your life in a way that works for you.
Mhm.
So I kind of, I guess, health coach and personal trainer mainly. But when I very first started, it was quite different than I am now, I guess. I got into fitness because I was a runner in like middle school. Yeah, so in middle school, I vividly remember I ran the mile because we had to do it for PE, and I was like trying really hard, and I got like a 10-minute and 50-second time, and I was just like, what? That's horrible.
Yeah.
So then that summer, from like 8th grade to freshman year of high school, I just ran, and I got my mile time all the way down to 5 minutes, which I broke. No, so I broke a record at my high school freshman year.
Ridiculous.
I know, and it's funny because now like running is the absolute last thing I want to do ever.
Yeah.
But that's what originally got me in the weight room, is because I needed to get stronger to run faster.
Yeah.
And so, but pretty quickly when I started lifting weights, I was 14 at the time. I pretty much like fell in love with it. I really liked getting strong, and even though I remember like doing exercise,
that process.
Yeah, and literally like since I got a gym membership at the YMCA when I was 14, I have been ridiculously, to a fault, really consistent with going to the gym and getting better in the gym. And so my training has definitely evolved, but it's always kind of been centered around getting stronger, getting better. And most recently, like the past 2 or 3 years, I've had pretty regimented, structured hypertrophy and strength training because I do I do plan on competing eventually. I am a small framed person, so I need a lot of muscle to do that competitively. And so, so I really enjoy progressing my main lifts. I love bench press, I love squats, I love deadlifts. But I also really like, working on building a physique that's going to be competitive.
Right. That makes sense. That's pretty cool. It's definitely, where you started is a lot different from where you are now, but like you said, it's an evolution. You evolved through that.
Absolutely.
Out of the time that you've been in it so far, what do you feel like is a proud moment besides that 5 mile minute? I mean, the 5-minute mile. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, I definitely can't run a 5-minute mile anymore, so that's like awesome. Way back.
Yeah.
But I would say I've had a couple really exciting moments. I mean, honestly, I was terrified of even learning how to squat and bench and deadlift. So I think I can kind of recall those moments of just getting under the bar for the first time and just like pulling some weight off the ground for the first time. Really monumental for me.
Feels good. Those newbie gains too.
Time. And then just on top of that, I think every single time I've hit a major PR on any of those lifts has been really exciting for me. This past year, actually, 2019 was the year that I was like, I'm going to bench 135. It's going down. And so I started off 2019 benching 85 pounds. That was my 1 rep max. And on November 1st, I got 135 up, weighing in at 135.
Oh, that's awesome.
Super exciting.
That's really cool. That's super impressive too, because it's funny. I've always even said it for myself. Like, you don't see that often. You know what I mean? You don't see it a lot. Like, I don't even think I've ever been in a commercial gym or in the presence of a female benching 135. I see it, powerlifting competitions. So that's like super impressive to me. That's really cool. That's really awesome. So as far as that accomplishment and stuff, and you mentioned competing. So you're trying to go into like maybe a powerlifting meet at some point?
Possibly. I mean, I definitely have a lot more interest in bodybuilding competition, so probably a bikini competition because I don't really plan on taking any supplements.
Yeah.
But we'll see. But I'm mostly interested in that, but I definitely would love to do a powerlifting competition at some point. 100%.
Yeah, I agree. I would also love to do that as well. I'm pretty sure I will. Like, you kind of know, and you may be the same type. Like, once you get an idea in your head, you kind of know, you're like,
I know it's coming.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And you're like, it's going to happen. Like, if it's hovering, it's probably going to come to fruition, you know, in some way.
Not
so,
it's just the way.
Yeah, exactly. So that'll be really cool. I'm sure that'll be a really big, proud moment too. Once, you know, you step on a platform or step on a stage or something like that. That'd be cool. So let's see. So my whole thing too is I'm kind of trying to create a little niche, right? So I'm more of a, I came from a nerd background, right? I played a lot of video games and different things like that. And then I kind of fell into the gym, right? More out of necessity because when I was younger, I graduated high school and then I wanted to be in law enforcement. So I was like, well, I don't want to be a fat cop because I feel like that's too ironic, you know? So I, you know, just did the internet thing, researched a little things. Like I went on probably way too restrictive of a diet, but it was something called like the fat smash diet where they went in phases, you know, they were like, all right, you do a detox and then it reintroduced foods progressively, you know? But I ended up losing a ton of weight from like 236 down to like 167 and I'm 6 foot. So I was pretty, you know, I lost a lot of weight, but it was a good feeling for me just being able to take it, that idea and being like, okay, I'm going to lose weight and then do it. Right. So, and put it to plan, put it to action. And I don't have older brothers or, you know, a dad or anything like that showed me how to work out and different things. So I just took what I knew from high school and then did some research and, you know, implemented the nutrition part of it. And a lot of it was more of that mental game that you were talking about for nutrition, you know, for me, huge. We may have to, I feel like this is going to spark a lot of other conversations maybe in the future. Just because you bring up a lot of points. There's so many nuances to this fitness thing. You know what I mean?
It is. And literally like, it's totally something I could go off on hours of a tangent on is just all of the nuances within it. And, you know, that's something. Yeah, and that's something that I highlight, and that's really important to me with my coaching. You know, I am passionate about not just giving people a meal plan that's like a copy paste, here you go, good luck, but really working with people on a week by week or day by day basis and growing and just kind of like building the right situation for them to get to the goal, but also kind of rediscover their own power at the same time.
That makes sense. That's good too, because giving them their power, that's going to help their confidence, different things like that, you know, and probably be more sustainable for them in the future.
Exactly.
You know, as far as that. So what have you found that is difficult and takes you away from that consistency, if at all? Because I feel like that's going to help the people that I'm trying to reach, which would hopefully be younger guys similar to me that maybe are on the fence playing video games a lot, but we can bring them over, you know, so maybe if you share some of that stuff, it could help them.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think consistency looks so different for everybody. Personally, getting in the gym, I have never really had a problem with consistency there just because it's literally since day one, I've just been like, this is what I do now. I go to the gym. Here we go. So, but on the other hand, I've definitely struggled with disordered eating and just like a really difficult relationship with food. And that has certainly brought inconsistencies to me making, you know, the progress that I wanted to make. And that's a really frustrating internal battle to go through, but it's something that so many people go through, right? So that's definitely one thing that stands out to me, and that's something that has gotten so much better over the years, but is, you know, something that still comes up for me, and it comes up for everybody. And I think that that's an important point, is that no matter how advanced you get, it's completely like you have to kind of expect to still experience that resistance. And I think that kind of going into it with that mentality of like, okay, I'm not expecting myself to wake up every day and be on point and, you know, be there all the time mentally.
Tell me about it.
Because it's just not realistic, but waking up every day and, you know, making a plan and giving it your absolute best and giving yourself grace when you might not hit that goal.
Yeah.
That will bring more consistency than like setting an unrealistic goal and then knocking yourself down and then feeling You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
just continuing to show up for yourself, even in really small ways, moving the needle, even in small ways, is really, really huge. And like I said, that looks so different for everybody.
It really does. Yeah.
Like, I know for me, when I've had really difficult times of, going through weird seasons with food and just feeling like, oh my gosh, like, why can't I just be consistent? Why can't whatever? That first off, all of those times have taught me so much and have allowed me to keep going.
Yeah, definitely.
Much more, in a much better way. But at the same time, I think the biggest thing is just to kind of acknowledge that that's a normal part of the process, is to feel the resistance.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I totally agree. I feel like you said, it's more the majority are gonna feel like that unless they're like the 1% of like, like the people that are like Dr. Mike Israetel and freaking like Stephanie Cohen and all those freaking monsters, dude. That like, there's this video on him on Dr. Mike Israetel that I watched, and he's just going through the narrative of like how he's like, I love to starve. You know what I mean? And he's like, I just put the fuel in, and then I'm a machine. It's an input, and I'm an output, and that's all it is. And I'm like, that's insane, that is so different. And I remember this too. I had a conversation with for me and my food thing, I can relate in a way, in terms of, you said the relationship with food. For me, it's always been weird too, and I feel like it comes back to where, for me, like when I grew up with just a single mom, and we didn't have, like, food was a celebration. So we didn't have, like, it was usually the basics, because we had to make sure we had enough money and all that stuff. So like big feasts and different things like that, those were like, it became an emotional thing, an emotional relationship for sure, looking back at that. And I remember talking to one of my friends about his relationship with food, and he was like, he was an ultra marathon runner, so he ran 100-mile race.
Wow.
And he was like, yeah, I don't like eating. He was like, I would prefer that if I never had to eat, I would prefer that. And it was like, to me, that was like such a different mindset to have. You know what I mean? They're differently the polar opposites of that. Like someone that's like, yeah, I just would rather just not eat ever. I'm like, what?
I know.
That's insane.
I can relate to that, but yeah, no, that's actually a really interesting point you make, because that's something that I see with every single client I have, especially the ones who are more nutrition emphasized, I guess, is that, on one hand, food, especially in like the fitness community and the science-based community, food is fuel. And yes, that's true. And it is an input and an output type thing to get a result. But on the other hand, food is such an emotional thing that goes all the way back to our childhoods.
So much.
For me, it totally relates to like cooking with my mom and having time with my family and celebratory things. And that's a very emotional thing. So I think that, acknowledging everybody's kind of food history and food story is so important, because it's different for everybody. Like, it's hugely different.
And that's why, and I think this is maybe a good like segue into this next question, when it's kind of both. It's like the things that are kind of annoying about the fitness community, and then kind of also maybe annoying about just the layman's, right? The people that aren't necessarily aware of everything. So when you hear like comments maybe from people that are in the industry, or people that have no clue about the industry, right? They're like, what's a macro, all that kind of stuff. But you'll hear him say stuff like, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but they'll just be talking about like diets, and like random stuff. And they'll be like, yeah, like intermittent fasting, it's the best thing ever. And it's the only thing, and you should definitely do it. And it don't eat this other way. And they're giving advice to people. And then you're like in the corner, like, oh my God.
Like, it's not that simple.
You know what I mean? It's not that simple. There's so many nuances. You know what I mean? You're like, it's so hard to just throw this gigantic blanket over everybody without really taking the time like you do yourself with your clients and stuff, and figuring out all the complexities around a person, and trying to really deliver, a good program and stuff for them for the future.
Yeah.
Do you have anything in particular that you could think of, like with the fitness community, that's kind of maybe annoying to you, and maybe possibly people that you've had to deal with as well? Maybe opportunities. We're not trying to like negative energy, but you know what I'm saying.
No, absolutely. Well, I definitely do think that the fitness industry, especially right now, is very saturated with lots of different people, oversaturated probably. And yeah, one thing that is definitely frustrating to some, especially me being a fitness professional and working with clients all the time, and having to debunk a lot of the things that are on the internet, it's definitely frustrating that there are so many people who might be ignorant, or they might just not have, like, maybe these people aren't educated, I don't know, but for some reason there is a large group of people who make very absolute and illegitimate statements sometimes,
Very absolute.
and
Yeah.
extremely vulnerable people, like people looking at their phones really desperate to lose weight because they feel so bad about themselves, read these things and take on this new belief system, and that becomes really hard to shift.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's definitely frustrating. So I think the misinformation in general, and just kind of not looking at the whole picture and making statements like, keto is the best, intermittent fasting is the best, because
Right.
we know that that's not the case, and that there's a
Yeah.
lot to it than that. But it's definitely frustrating to see what that does to some people's relationships with themselves, food, dieting, all of that, because it's truly like a component of these people's health that you
Yeah.
are into your hands, and misusing. And I think that's pretty morally wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially when it just comes down to the extra dollars, you know what I mean, in that person's pocket, that they're trying to get. It's very frustrating, you know. And then it's good. I feel like more recently, in the last few years, at least 4 or 5 years, it's good that, obviously with all the negatives of social media and different things like that, there's a lot of positives, because there's so many people that are really, really putting out like so much information, people that PhDs and all this stuff, and the amount of information that like, it's just awesome how much people, like, if there's a 15-year-old out there just starting out, how much they can really tap into, you know what I mean, of good information, as long as they're guided right, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I feel like for me, that's kind of where, going back to like maybe some like self-awareness, you know what I mean, like you had mentioned before, you're like, well, competition and all this stuff, like for me, I know I'm not gonna like be an elite top one power lifter or whatever the case. I know I may not be a coach such as yourself, but if I can help guide and maybe point a few people, you know what I mean, to your direction, to people like Omar, Isaf, Dr. Mike Israel, and all those kinds of things, I feel like that could be a place, you know what I mean, in terms of the self-awareness, just because they have so much that they could really use. You see 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds that are squatting like 600 pounds.
I know.
And I'm like, what in the world is going on,
Yeah.
And that's a result of all that information, and them putting it to use and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it. So yeah, the fitness community needs to improve, that kind of stuff. I totally agree with all that you were saying. As far as your current trajectory right now, do you have any upcoming goals that you're gonna try to smash, like in the near future, like sooner rather than later?
Whether it's
you cut out.
Goals like more recent, that you're looking to, attack, whether that's professionally, within your career specifically, or maybe just a PR or something like that.
Yeah, totally. So right now, what's interesting is I'm in a very interesting phase, being that, we are all quarantined. But I've really transitioned a lot of my in-person training into an online platform. So it's definitely a goal of mine to kind of grow that more and just kind of reach more people. That's kind of from a business standpoint. And then personally, I definitely have like lots of little goals. My big goal, I guess, that's kind of at the forefront is competing sometime next year, hopefully. I've been reverse dieting for 1.5 years just for metabolic repair.
Mm-hmm.
And so right now my goal is to mostly just maintain right now until I can get back under a heavy barbell. But right now I'm just kind of focusing on maintaining and sticking to my protocols for nutrition, getting my calories as high as I can get them, and my body in a really well functioning state. Yeah, and beyond that, I've got lots of little goals. I have a set of kettlebells that I bought on. And so I've been, CrossFit is not my forte, but I've been trying to kind of push myself to get into some kettlebell combinations and things like that.
Yeah.
Very challenging, but really, really fun. So.
Oh yeah. All the different classes, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of something too. Is the different classes definitely need to be more accepting of each other.
Agreed.
You know, in some way. It all comes down to like, yeah, we're all just kind of in it. We're in a gym at some point, you know what I mean? And usually there's bars involved in some way. We might not agree with, you know, the methodology and some of the things that go on, you know what I mean? But
we're all really here to do the same thing.
It's very, very similar. Yeah. And it's like, you can't watch, like, I mean, at least for me, like I don't do CrossFit either. I've never done it, but you can't watch a competition and not be impressed.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, those are impressive freaking things. Whole competitions, it's insane, the things that they're putting their bodies through. So that kind of, I don't know if you would pick CrossFitter, but if you weren't in this particular fitness health coach fitness niche, what kind of other fitness thing would you be? Baseball player? Who knows? What kind of athlete do you think you would aspire to be?
That's a great question and not something I've thought about too much. I've always loved gymnastics. I was a cheerleader for a long time when I was younger.
You were strong.
Yes, exactly. And so I love gymnastics, but I think I'd probably consider going into some kind of like athletic training, like CrossFit or jujitsu maybe. That kind of intrigues me.
Yeah.
Just because it's something that would currently be so out of my comfort zone, but it's something that would require a lot of skill and a lot of progression, and I love that.
Okay, cool. So you'll probably like it because at some point I'm gonna interview a black belt jujitsu guy that I work with, right? And I'll probably have his episode like next week. But that's gonna be mine for sure. It would be mine, is jujitsu, without a doubt. I've just put it off for so long because I know that I'm the kind of person that I know if once I do something, I'm gonna do it all the way.
Same.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm like on that fence where I'm like, I don't know. It's like that hopscotch, like you're like, to get in there thing. So I know that, and I have the resources to do it because the people that I work with. So I know I'm gonna be sucked into that world. But I'm like, I'm so in love with like the traditional lifts and the gym that I don't want to like give it up entirely. It's like a romantic relationship.
Totally.
You know, kind of funny in that way. But yeah, that would definitely be mine. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll probably tell my buddy. He'll be excited. You know, he'll probably be like, "Yeah, finally." You know.
That's so rad. Yeah. Well, best of luck whenever you do decide to.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll go there. And, I've already been to a few gyms, and I've got like, I've never been more humbled by a 14-year-old. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm a fairly decent sized person, so that was interesting. But yeah, it's cool. I love the. I feel like this would be something too you may even like if you ever do try it. It's just the like the ritualness of it, you know, like the black belt, the discipline and all that kind of stuff, and the things that you need to get to before you can progress to the next level. I really like all that piece of it too, you know.
Totally.
I can only imagine if we gave out like crazy belts and stuff in the fitness community, you know, like
I know.
You know, you're a trainer, so you have this. Yeah, exactly. It'd be kind of funny. So that's cool. Gymnastics is pretty awesome. Those freaking people are stupid strong too.
Seriously.
Like all that stuff they do on the rings, freaking flipping all over the place. It's freaking nuts. So yeah. Let's see here. Oh, so advice for people that are maybe on the fence of fitness. Mm-hmm. And really quick, you just like your hot take of like getting them into the gym, or at least maybe starting their little journey tomorrow. Like what would you give them as far as advice?
So I think the first thing that comes to mind that I think is so valuable is just really determining why you want to do this in the first place, because I definitely think that it's extremely common to get started for, you know, an ego-driven reason, which we've all been there, and that's okay. But the likelihood that we will stick with it, if it's, you know, to have our body look a certain way because we want to look good in a bikini, or, you know, whatever, something like that isn't as powerful as something like, I want to feel better on a day-to-day basis. I want to build trust with myself. I want to build discipline with myself. And I think going into it, kind of acknowledging all of those other areas that could be improved by entering, you know, like taking care of your health in the gym. I think you're so much more likely to stick with it for longer. You're more likely to have a more enjoyable experience. Just kind of coming from the right place within yourself and not doing it for any other reason than wanting to improve personally for you.
Yeah, that makes sense. So just kind of finding that deeper reasoning, maybe take a notch or two above those surface level ones, just because it's just going to hold you a little longer.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with having physical goals, of course. Like,
of course.
Shoulders and big glutes, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the likelihood that I'll actually be able to achieve that goal without acknowledging the deeper reason is just not there. So getting deep and asking yourself those big questions, I think, is night and day a game changer. And if I had done that in the beginning, I would have gotten a lot farther, a lot faster.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, if I would have had someone saying like, you know, about, for me, when I very first started, it was more of the surface level. But if I would have had someone that would have pushed me towards like the competition stuff and all that, I feel like I would have probably been in a better scenario with all that stuff in terms of strength and all that kind of thing. But it's all good. And I still know that there's still so much, you know, everyone can do, you know what I mean? Even if you're not out there, you know, crushing competitions and all that kind of stuff. Just even being an example too, you know what I mean? Like, in a way, especially with knowledge that I have, which is way more limited than yourself, but when I'm going out there and stuff, I feel like you got to be an example. So then that may help, that may inspire somebody, you know what I mean? Just by doing your day-to-day and sticking and going and being consistent, even though you're not like actively telling someone like, hey, you need to go to the gym, them seeing you do it consistently, they're like, wait a minute, you know?
Absolutely.
They might hit you and ask you. And to some degree, like if I don't do that now, I would feel kind of like ashamed. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like in a way.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like, I think at a certain point in everybody's fitness journeys, I guess, I feel like we all get to places where we have established the consistency and we kind of have gotten to a point that a lot of people want to get to. And so, yeah, acknowledging by, you know, that by continuing to do that for yourself, you are likely inspiring a lot of people to do the same, you know, because you are like a walking example of what could possibly become of them if they were to be consistent.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. I feel like it helps a lot, you know. All right, so I have a few questions that came through that some people were going to ask. This asked, do you have a favorite video game or one that you remember playing possibly in your childhood?
I so do, actually. There's one game in particular that has taken up so many hours of my life, it's ridiculous, and that is Guitar Hero.
Oh yeah, I think we've all been there. I feel like we've all been there, you know?
Been there. Yeah, no, I
sure.
did a ridiculous amount of time to getting.
That would have been really funny if there was just like an alternate profile of you like before, and you were just like a Guitar Hero pro. That was your whole other alternate
personality. That would have, you know.
Hey,
awesome.
Who knows? One day maybe I'll like bring it back, and if I can
Did you get it?
Did you get on the expert level? Were you like doing the crazy stuff?
Definitely, I was on the expert level for quite a few songs, but there were definitely, I don't know if you've ever played Guitar Hero, but there are a couple songs on like every single version of Guitar Hero that are just so ridiculously impossible.
Yeah, like the one that I think I don't know if you remember, is the one that's called Through the Fire and Flames.
Yep.
It's by Dragon Force.
I tried to pass that on hard like 100 times and I never could, but I did pass it on medium, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, Guitar Hero,
that's pretty
hands down for sure.
Very well, very well. Let's see. Oh, how long would you expect to personally train someone before they become independent from you?
Oh, like how long would I like train somebody until they no longer needed me, basically?
Yeah, I guess that's more of like a general question. Like, I guess maybe as a coach, you know, because I kind of always I've thought about that too. You know, it's that whole like don't just feed somebody. You know, teach them how to fish kind of thing in a way. And I guess that's maybe what they're asking as far as your perspective on that. And I'm sure it's different for everybody, but yeah.
Yeah, but in general, I mean, yeah, it is different for everybody because I have clients who I've been working with for like 3 years and they could very well be very successful. Like they know what they're doing, but they just need that accountability and that extra, push, you know, and they kind of just don't want to think about it, which I understand that. But then I've got lots of clients who start with me as beginners, like they don't know anything. And I would say that after, you know, maybe 6 to 12 months of really consistent and we're learning the mechanics and everything and just generally understanding progressive overload and things like that, then I would say, I mean, depending on the commitment of the individual to learn these things and apply them themselves, I would say like a solid, I want to say maybe more like 8 to 12 months with a fitness professional who knows what they're doing. You could probably learn most of what you need to know to progress yourself after that.
That's cool. Yeah, that probably hits it right on the head. And it's, you know, like you said, it's general, it's different for everybody. But, you know, there's just those people that are kind of like, they like that, they take to it quick, you know, and then they comprehend it, and then they can run off on their own kind of thing, you know. So, and that's probably a good feeling too for you know, being a trainer and stuff too. That's probably pretty awesome.
No,
and then it's more variety too, and you get to kind of mix it up. You know, different people, all that kind of stuff too, which is cool. So, let's see. What is a healthy way to recommend fitness / working out to a loved one? So that's all it said. But I mean, the only thing I could think of there is maybe they have somebody that they want to be in fitness, but maybe they're afraid of like being like, hey, yo, get your ass in the gym, you know? You know what I'm saying?
No, this is definitely a tricky thing. Ultimately, I do think that an individual needs to want it for themselves to make that big, because it's a huge lifestyle. It's a huge decision. Like it's not something that can be easily influenced by someone else. But I do think that, you know, having a conversation from a place of loving somebody and saying, hey, I think you would so greatly benefit from moving your body more and, you know, getting into this and whatever, you know, and just kind of providing the support on a consistent basis and just kind of focusing on the delivery, I guess. This is more of like a therapy communication answer, but
it's really bold, like taking the two, you know, for sure.
Yeah, so
that is delicate.
On it is delicate. The delivery of what you're trying to say and kind of coming from a place of caring about the person and not like oh you're fat and you need to
yeah, they're like, what? Excuse me? Yeah.
That's a efficient way to communicate, but just kind of, and also kind of like you just said, leading by example. You know, I think it's really hard to ask something of somebody else that you are not already embodying yourself.
Yeah, that is really difficult.
Yeah, so I think like leading by example, I know that's been a really powerful thing for me. Like a lot of my family members who I care about, who could absolutely benefit from, you know, progressing their health in a better direction, have done so just because they see me taking care of myself and me feeling good about doing it. You know what I mean? So I think that's the most powerful thing you can do.
Yeah, that I feel like I really agree with that. I feel like that's like the nail on the head, really. You know what I mean? Especially if you're uncomfortable about the delivery and stuff like that, and you don't really know how. Well, you look at yourself too, and then, you know, get to that part of it and see what that at least leads to, and then maybe eventually, if still that's not working, then work on the delivery and the therapy session there.
Possibly.
So that's pretty much it. So that's all the questions that I got. Well, actually, there's another one too. I don't think I put it on the iPad there, but is there anything else right now outside of the fitness world and outside of your normal things that we talk about, you know, the mental state of mind stuff that has your attention at all?
I mean, outside of fitness itself, I'm super into self-development of all kinds. I think, I mean, it transfers over so well. So yeah, I've been really enamored with developing my own mind and just my own habits. I read a lot of books. I love podcasts. So yeah, I'm generally pretty interested in like understanding lots of different points of views on lots of different things. I'm not a very like one-way thinker. I'm a very open-minded person, and so I like learning about things that I don't already feel like I understand.
Yeah.
So yeah, but for the most part, I do gravitate towards, you know, reading books and listening to podcasts that are about fitness, are about self-development.
Sure.
That's kind of like my niche.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also really love art of all kinds. I love painting, learning about painting, and just kind of humans in general, and just everybody's individual human experience, whether that be fitness related or not, is very fascinating to me.
Yeah,
And
true.
I enjoy learning about that, you know, by reading books and by listening to different things, but also just like being a personal trainer, I meet a lot of different kinds of people. And so
I bet, yeah.
and so that's something in general I just really love, kind of being able to see firsthand all the time how much variety there is in the world based on everybody's own individual experience. It's really beautiful.
Sure.
Yeah, human behavior is a fascinating thing, to say
the very least.
Yes, it is.
I mean, that's really the only thing it really deserves. Like, as much as like, there's like so much like different emotions that are packed into that. Human behavior is a fascinating thing. Like, there's frustration, there's interest that's packed into that. There's a whole bunch of stuff. You know what I mean? Especially in today's climate and stuff and all that, and a lot of the polarization. Like how you said before, you know, you said you're very open-minded. You want to see both sides. You know, I feel like that is such a valuable thing to have. You know,
it really is. Just because,
I mean, even in my own instances, you know, if you work, just a quick example, you work law enforcement. If you're in things, I can't go to somebody and be like, "Yo, what happened?" And then they're like, this happened. And then I never talk to the other person. Like, I never find out anything else.
Right.
Like, it doesn't work that way. I can't do that. Like, you have to dissect it. You have to figure things out. Like,
absolutely.
Well, A, B to C, it was G, and then it went all the way to J. And I don't know. It's just, it's crazy how people are very, like, one-sided. It's like, you know, hey, it's just, I feel like it's because of, it's really what humans, like, we're talking about human behavior. It's what we are, we're really drawn to, right? Because when you make emotional statements and stuff like that, like, obviously if I made this thumbnail where I'm like, you know, I talked to the best master trainer in the entire world, everyone else sucks and they can't train as good as this person, people would get all like weird about it, you know what I mean? But they would click it. You know, that's what attracts people, because I'm hitting an emotion, you know what I mean? Because they're like, oh, well, I'm the best trainer. What are you talking about?
No, exactly.
You know what I mean?
I think we naturally want, like, I think we all inherently want to have the answers, and accepting the fact that there might not be one answer to every question is difficult for a lot of people, especially people who have been brought up, you know, very specifically being told that this is your religion and this is the way you think and these are the rules and this is the way things are. That's, you know, a hard belief system to kind of break, but I think, you know, we're getting there.
yeah slowly but surely, but yeah, there's some progress there, you know, for sure.
Acknowledging that there's many different, you know, it's a dynamic thing. Humans are dynamic, and there's no black and white. It's quite gray. And I think that thinking in more terms like that is not only more beneficial, like, collectively, but I think that's going to bring an individual so much more peace, not having to like fight so hard for one argument that may or may not be true.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense, you know. It's really interesting, that whole piece. I don't know if you've ever had that too in your profession, where people have you ever had where people try to like Monday morning quarterback your profession or your job? You know what I mean?
Like tell me kind of like, this is what's right.
Yeah, and they're not in the job?
Oh, constantly. I mean, that's kind of one thing that I very frequently have to learn how to address is when people are like, this is what I'm doing and this is what's right. Or, sometimes I'll make a recommendation like, okay, we're gonna strength train 3 times a week, whatever. And they're like, no, I have to do 6 times a week. And it's like, okay, you know what I mean?
I have
like,
to do 6 times, and I gotta max every day. And you're like, what, dude?
Right. And so it's really just about, like I said like multiple times, it's really just about understanding the whole person, understanding the whole story to the best extent, and then kind of formulating the best outcome or decision the best you can
From
but
there,
but while still acknowledging that, like, okay, nothing is absolute really, and we have to acknowledge that.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's very true. And it really is funny if you think about it, because it really ties to a lot of the overarching arguments that happen in everything, you know what I mean, as far as all the big stuff that gets a lot of attention. I could just never imagine like tuning into like a neurosurgery and then being like, my opinion on how that neurosurgeon is like performing, and
Right.
I'm like, I don't know how you guys do that. Like I couldn't do that. Like I'm just very much, especially if I'm in an environment where I don't know what's going on, I'm very much the type, I'm very observant. So I'm just like laying in the cut, man. I'm just like picking up what's up, like I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, no, and I think that that's important too, is like to stay within your scope of practice and to, because I think that's generally a good rule for all of us to have. I certainly feel strongly about staying within my scope of practice.
Yeah, you heard it here. You
said stay in your lane is what you said.
Stay in your lane. That's what
stay in your lane.
Well, I feel like that's a good place to end. So that I appreciate everyone watching the podcast between the sets. If you liked it, make sure you leave a like, subscribe. I will put Tessie's link in the description. I'm gonna hunt down every description, and I'm gonna put the link in every description I can find, maybe even your description. But again, we appreciate it. Until the next time, we'll see you. Thanks.